And greetings, everyone, and welcome to Buzz for Good, where we talk all things nonprofit, the people they serve, and the good they do. And today I am buzzing about a local giving day coming up where you can help 36 different nonprofit organizations that serve Bedford and Franklin counties in the Smith Mountain Lake area of Virginia. And I will share with you our recent Buzz Live talk show that featured one of those nonprofits located in Franklin County, Healing Strides of Virginia, along with Apple Ridge Farm and the inspiring story of a cancer survivor turned international touring banjo player. But first, my name is Michael Hemphill. I'm the creator and host of this radio show, Buzz for Good, as well as the TV show Buzz that airs Wednesday nights on Blue Ridge PBS and our YouTube channel at Buzz for Good, where we feature the great work of nonprofit organizations and the marketing professionals affiliated with the American Advertising Federation of Roanoke, who donate their time and talent to help these life-giving organizations achieve more buzz. And I invite you to our latest venture, Buzz Live, what we're calling the Tonight Show for Nonprofits, which will be happening on February the 27th at the Spot on Kirk in downtown Roanoke. More information coming up later on that, but first I want to get to our guest today, Lisa Leitz of SML Good Neighbors, or Smith Mountain Lake Good Neighbors, which is coordinating SML Gives Day on March the 19th. And one of the questions that I asked her is, why does a lake community full of wealthy families and retirees need a giving day? And her answer may surprise you. And it is my pleasure to welcome to Buzz for Good, Lisa Leitz, who is the executive director of the SML Good Neighbors, a nonprofit organization which is hosting and coordinating SML Gives, or Smith Mountain Lake Gives Day, on March the 19th. Welcome.
Thank you for having me. How are you?
Just spectacular, and always excited to talk to a nonprofit, especially one that is trying to do such great work for a lot of other nonprofits. That's very special. We've done an episode of our TV show Buzz featuring the Council of Community Services in Roanoke, which hosts a Roanoke Valley Gives Day, or Give Roanoke Day, sometime in the spring. And when heard about the work that you're doing, we certainly wanted to feature you as well. So, share with me the inspiration behind SML Gives Day, and by the SML, for those tuning in, that's Smith Mountain Lake.
Well, we started SML Gives several years ago. Smith Mountain Lake Good Neighbors, used to participate in another giving day that has since been discontinued called Roanoke Valley Gives.
Yep.
And when that was discontinued, we were in a staff meeting, myself and our social media marketing manager and our office administrator. And we were trying to decide what we were going to do to fill that gap for ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
We thought maybe we'll just go heavier on Giving Tuesday, put more efforts into that. And one of the thoughts was, or do we do our own giving day? Or do we do our own giving day for the Smith Mountain Lake community, who we love and have a special relationship with? It's the community we serve. And we had worked with a lot of nonprofits in the SML area with Roanoke Valley Gives, and trying to find unique ways to get our message out there to the greater region. And no sooner did the idea come up that we all kind of jumped on it and said, yeah, let's do it. Let's start a giving day for our community and see where it goes. So that
Yeah.
was the start of it. And that first year, we did everything manually by hand. We built the website ourselves, updated the goals ourselves. And I think we actually did that the first 2 years. And when we were working with 13 nonprofits, the first year, it wasn't so bad. But we quickly learned that this was taking on a thing of its own, and it was getting bigger than what we could do. And so last year we moved to a platform, the Mighty Cause platform, to help, which has been wonderful.
Yep.
So it's just taken on a mind of its own, and we just get to be the vehicle for it.
Talking with Lisa Leitz about SML Gives Day on March the 19th, SML being Smith Mountain Lake. And it was launched in 2022. 13 nonprofits raising $86,000. And then the following year, 23, 21 nonprofits, $138,000. Last year, 37 nonprofits, $218,000. What is the goal for this year?
The goal for this year is 200,000. We have 36 nonprofits participating.
Okay.
Um, and so we're really excited to see where it goes. We have crushed the overall goal every year. And I hope that's the case again this year. But with 36 nonprofits instead of 37, we kept it at 200.
Okay.
So a $200,000 goal.
All right. Again, joined here on Buzz for Good by Lisa Leitz, the executive director of the SML Good Neighbors, which is coordinating the SML Gives Day on March the 19th. When we think about Smith Mountain Lake, a lot of people from outside the region and even here think about, a bunch of rich people who have built $1 million homes on the lake, for them to enjoy on weekends or, during the summers. But there is a real need in the region that you are serving. Talk about that.
There is a huge need. Outside the perimeter of the lake, you may have a handful of middle class suburban neighborhoods, or almost suburban,
Hmm.
but our rural community has so much need outside of the perimeter of the lake.
Hmm.
Um, you would not believe. Uh, a small example is during COVID, we went remote and virtual with all of our programs at Good Neighbors, and we actually delivered our weekend bags to homes throughout Franklin County, and Bedford. And some of the neighborhoods that we drove through were neighborhoods that we've never seen, and some of us have lived here 40 years.
Hmm.
Um, and we have seen clients from these various nonprofits who are living without power, who are living in shacks, who are living in tents, people without running water. And that's the worst of it. There's so much, there's a huge jump from living in a nice little development to that.
Yeah.
And the needs span the entire uh picture,
Hmm.
and the people at the lake are what make a lot of these nonprofits run. You
Yeah.
know, um, a lot of our donors are these people around the lake. A lot of our volunteers are the people around the lake. We have this beautiful community of retired professionals with a wealth of knowledge that they are generous with.
Hmm.
But outside of that, just in our backyards, um, the needs are unreal and many hard to meet. If you look at the Carillion's community health assessment data, you can look at the map and see this slice of Franklin County where the lake is having needs met. And then the rest of the county, with maybe an exception of around Ferrum, who have lack of transportation, lack of health insurance, so many needs. And I hope people realize when they visit the lake and they vacation here that this is home year round for so many individuals, um,
Who don't live
who
on the lake.
who
Who-
don't live on the
Yeah.
lake and
Right.
are some working 3, 4 jobs
Yeah.
just to pay the bills. So that is important to recognize, and I'm glad you asked about that and brought it up.
All right. Again, joined here on Buzz for Good by Lisa Leitz, the executive director of the SML Good Neighbors, which is coordinating the SML Gives Day on March the 19th. I love the idea of giving days because so much of our nonprofit motivation seems to be going towards, or historically has gone towards, like end of year giving. Starting with Thanksgiving to December 31st, and then the whole Giving Tuesday, and trying to do that. So I love the idea that we're trying to remind people, hey, nonprofits are doing work not just at the end of every year, but throughout the year. And so events like yours taking place in March, it's just another reminder that, hey, nonprofits need your support throughout the year in order to fulfill their missions.
They do, and depending on their programs and their budget, um, having that cash flow come in earlier in the year is often really helpful. So it's a call to action. And even just for the community to know what resources are out there and how these organizations are lifting up their community and helping in their backyards, I think
Yep.
is important as well. Not just the donations, but that awareness.
Yeah. So I know we don't have time to feature all 36 different organizations that are participating. And I know that you're going to say, I don't want to single out any particular organization, but can you provide just an array of the missions that nonprofits participating in SML gives, are involved with? Because I think people often don't realize just how much work nonprofits do in their communities, from arts and culture to environment to, helping kids with developmental disabilities to veterans suffering from, issues.
Absolutely. So, one I'm really excited about this year is we have both the Bedford County Library Foundation and the Franklin County Library Foundation and the Friends of the Manita Library participating this year, which I'm a huge fan for literacy and advocate for that. So, I'm excited about that. The Franklin County Library Foundation just was able to adopt and start the Dolly Parton Imagination Library here in Franklin County. And
Yeah.
so, the funds they raise will go to support that. We have a ton of great animal nonprofits that are helping animals in our community and animal owners. So we have the Franklin County Animal Shelter. I think it's called the Planned Pethood Clinic. I believe we have the Bedford one as well, and Barn Cat Buddies, and um, Freedom's Last Chance. And so a lot of great animal rescues. A new one this year is the Domestic Violence Coalition in Bedford, which I think is wonderful. We also have Food for Kids, Lake Christian Ministries, Agape, organizations focused on feeding and emergency assistance. I could probably name close to all 36 of them, but Habitat for Humanity, affordable housing. So you have housing, animals, and you, of course, have the arts. We have Smith Mountain Arts Council. Our organization, Good Neighbors, we do both literacy, arts, education, enrichment. So you have a whole host of causes to get behind and many to go through to choose what causes connect with you.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you're you're speaking to a cause near and dear to my heart, obviously, with nonprofits. And, for people who not trying to delve into our political situation right now, but for people who may either be cheering on or bemoaning what is happening with our federal government, with in terms of cuts to personnel and services and whatnot, the nonprofit arena is one that anybody and everybody should gravitate towards because nonprofits already are doing so much work in our community and will most likely be taking on even more responsibilities and challenges in the years ahead as federal government shrinks. Whether you are in favor of that or not, the end result is nonprofits are going to be asked to do more. And so we as a community must support what nonprofits do in order to maintain the quality of life that we want all of our citizens to have. And the SML Gives Day on March the 19th is a great way to do that.
It is, and I agree. It's regardless of government, nonprofits have always been filling in the gaps
Yep.
the government can't. And so, and I think with the increased costs recently and inflation, there's increased need of our community, but there's also increased need for the nonprofits to increase their funding
Yep.
and their donations to be able to afford the increased costs of providing services.
Yep. Yep. Well, again, joined here on Buzz for Good by Lisa Leitz, the executive director of the SML or Smith Mountain Lake Good Neighbors, which is hosting and coordinating SML Gives Day on March the 19th, where there were some 36 different nonprofit organizations serving the Smith Mountain Lake region of Virginia are banding together on this one day of giving to try to inspire people to give to their cause. And they have a goal of $200,000 to raise this year, which is a far cry from the $38,000 that was raised in 2022.
Something like that. Yeah, I believe it was about 38,000.
Yeah. Wow. Well, congratulations on the growth that you've experienced here. Um,
Thank you.
yeah, share a little bit about SML Good Neighbors and how you got involved with this organization.
Well, SML Good Neighbors was founded in 2007, and it emerged from some community members meeting and just kind of having talks about the needs of our community and the needs of children in our community.
Hmm.
Um, and we provide summer enrichment day camps partnered with Bedford and Franklin County Public Schools each summer. We do a weekend backpack program during the summer for those students where it's 6 meals for the weekend and a new book for them to keep each week. We do an after school program focused on the arts, a scholarship program for high school seniors, and leadership development internships for college students from around the globe. And that's where kind of our mission lies in nourishing, educating, and supporting students here locally, and also providing vocational exploration for college students. I got involved just because I was moving here from the DC, Maryland area, and I heard about a part-time job. I had little ones at the time. I didn't want to work full time.
Yep.
And they had a part-time job, and it seemed like a great organization to work for. And I very quickly fell in love that first summer I worked with them. And by the fall, they asked me to step into the program director position, which was
Hmm.
full time and not my plan, but it usually is never our plan that is best for us. And
That's the way nonprofits work. They just kind of just reel you in. Oh, just a little part-time job. Oh, here's a little full-time, but I promise that, we're going to be there to support you, for 40 hours a week. And then it becomes, and now you're executive director.
right, I just keep staying around and they
Yep.
ask me to fill a new role and I take it on. And it is, I'm sure I'm biased, but I believe our board of directors is the best board of directors to ever exist. We're all there because we care about children, we care about young people, and we care about preserving dignity and respect for them. And uh, our meetings are filled with laughter and serious conversation, but it's a wonderful organization. Our volunteer base and the families we serve are a blessing in my life. So.
Just out of curiosity, other than, the time that you had available, when you first applied for the job, was there something in your background that inspired you to, or, and made you suited to working in the nonprofit world?
So my educational background at the time was human services,
Okay.
um, and has evolved now. I decided to go back to school since I started working for Good Neighbors and studied psychology. And I think that is very suited for the nonprofit world. But I've
Yeah.
always felt a passion specifically for young people. I think um, the developing mind faces a lot of challenges, and life can be really difficult for kids. And I
Yeah.
think that um, sometimes our society doesn't recognize the amount of empathy we should have for how difficult it is to grow up in a world that's much different than the world I grew up in with social media and
Yeah.
technology and new pressures. And so youth just have a special place in my heart, and anything I
Hmm.
can do to help support them and create safe, fun learning environments is I'm all for it.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Well, coming to the end of our conversation with Lisa Leitz, the executive director of SML Good Neighbors, or Smith Mountain Lake Good Neighbors, coordinating what would this be, the fourth annual SML Gives Day on March the 19th, where 36 different nonprofit organizations have all come together to collectively try to raise at least $200,000. We're hopeful that we'll go higher than that.
Yep.
So to find out more information about SML Gives Day, you can go to
smlgives.org.
smlgives.org. So what made your organization in particular capable of taking this on?
Well, we've had the pleasure of working with a lot of local nonprofits
Hmm.
serving the SML region and getting to know them. And I think we felt one that being a good neighbor,
Oh,
in
very
quotes,
nice.
meant that we were going to share what we had with our community and be helpers. And we have three paid staff, which is a lot more than a lot of our local nonprofits have. Many of them are 100% volunteer ran, and we know that we've seen firsthand the important work that these nonprofits are doing. We've never wanted nonprofit work to feel like a competition. We wanted it to feel like we were working together and sharing to lift each other up and raise each other up. And so for us, it was, we know these people, they're our friends, they're our partners, they're our colleagues, and anything we can do with our resources to share that. If we're already going to be fundraising for ourselves, why not put in some extra work and share what we have with our neighbors?
And many thanks again to Lisa Leitz of SML Gives Day, and I hope you will mark your calendar to support the cause on March the 19th. I also hope you will mark your calendar for our next Buzz Live talk show on February the 27th, when we chat with the nonprofits Ram House Homeless Ministry and Angels of Assisi Animal Welfare Agency, along with our musical guest, Jack Hinshelwood. Now, one of our most recent Buzz Live shows happened February the 13th, when we starred Healing Strides of Virginia, Apple Ridge Farm, and the inspiring story of Keith Alessi, who launched his international banjo career at the Spot on Kirk. And here's that show. All right. Are we live, Rob? We are live. Great. Everybody, welcome to Buzz Live. Thank you so much for being here tonight. My name is Michael Hemphill. I am the creator and host of the TV show Buzz that airs Wednesday nights on Blue Ridge PBS, where in each episode we feature the great work that nonprofit organizations do and the marketing professionals affiliated with the American Advertising Federation of Roanoke, who donate their time and talent helping these nonprofits achieve more buzz. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Appreciate all of you being here at the Spot on Kirk in downtown Roanoke. If you're tuning in to our live stream on Facebook or YouTube, you have my man Rob Orthwine to thank. So everybody, please give it up for Rob. Very nice. Now, my co-host, Kiana Price Marshall, could not be here tonight. And unfortunately for you, I was planning on flying solo here. However, a few days ago, I happened to be leaving a local coffee shop and ran into a friend of mine who is a former illustrious TV personality herself, but also, for whatever reason, way back in 2019, she, for some reason, said yes when I asked her if she would be the co-host of my pilot episode of my TV show Buzz, when we featured the nonprofit Healing Strides of Virginia. Well, we got to talking about Buzz Live. She thought it was a pretty cool idea, said, hey, if ever you need any help, let me know. I said, well, actually, I need help tonight. And not only that, but to kind of put a little bow on all of this, one of the nonprofits that we had already scheduled to be here tonight is Healing Strides of Virginia. So a beautiful full circle moment. Please welcome to the stage Becky Freemall.
Welcome. Thank you, Michael. Is this sucker on? Check, check, check.
Sucker is on, yes.
Should I bam it? Is this thing on? These days I'm doing marketing and growth strategies for companies around the country, and I find myself in the virtual space, as I like to call it, the Hollywood squares. And you don't have a lot of human contact when you have clients all everywhere but here. Yep. And so when you said, hey, do you want to do the thing? I'm like, oh my gosh, I can touch you like we're human beings. This is so exciting. And no matter if I'm in news or doing marketing strategies or anything in between, the one thing that's always been a huge part of my heart are nonprofits. Yep. I'm on chairs and I'm a board chair for one, and I'm on just the board for a few others. And
they do everything.
I love it. They do. Nonprofits, you say, hey, you're hired to do X. That really means you're going to do A through Z. And it's not that you ask them, people are just passionate about it, and they will do anything to make that thing happen and lift and elevate it. So what you're doing, by the way, Michael, I promise you, he did not pay me for this, but it is amazing the work you do. It is not. Did you notice I haven't picked them up yet?
Well, thank you.
Yes, absolutely. Well, let's get rocking and rolling, shall we? All right. Well, we're going to introduce, as you said, Healing Strides of Virginia. Right. Betsy Osborne, program director, will be up on stage here in a moment. We've got the musical guest who I was just listening to around the corner when I was in the green room. Shout out Bruce Bryant. I love the green room and I love the green couch. It's awesome. Keith Alessi, and absolutely amazing. And then, of course, let's not forget, and I'm going to look at this, Josh Temke, which is not spelled Temke at all, with, I will tell you, Apple Ridge Farms.
Excellent. Great show tonight. As I mentioned, way back in 2019, as we were first launching Buzz, we wanted to feature a nonprofit that had a great visual story to tell, and also one that needed some marketing help. Well, Healing Strides of Virginia provides horse therapy for people of all ages and struggles, from children who are suffering from developmental issues all the way up to veterans who have PTSD. So you've got horses, you've got children, and you've got veterans. So check, check, check for a great TV show. And
right.
It was, thanks to the great work that they do. So you can watch that whole episode on our YouTube channel at Buzz for Good. But my favorite clip involved you interviewing a veteran who works for Healing Strides, but also receives some really life-saving help from Healing Strides. And here it is.
Well, so I understand you were a client, and now you're a horse owner and an employee, and you've kind of evolved.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah, it's been a huge transition for me in my life. I was stationed at Fort Campbell in Kentucky. I was diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder, major depressive disorder, intermittent explosive disorder, you name it.
Do you find yourself kind of becoming those labels almost just because they place so many labels on you?
Yeah, PTSD that's who you are. Well, I had 4 suicide attempts. I've been in a coma twice. When you get out, you're like, well, I don't know what to do anymore.
Who am I?
Yeah, like I can't tell my wife, baby, you mean the world to me. Like you're everything that I've ever wanted. And you lose that way to just come up and give your kid a hug and embrace him and pull him tight and tell him Daddy loves you more than anything. What he sees is Dad coming in, maybe going to the refrigerator, grabbing a beer and going downstairs in the basement and watching TV. Not because he doesn't want to be around, because he doesn't know how to talk anymore or share his feelings, because it's like this right here.
Did you ever imagine that an animal of any kind, a horse, would be what got you to where you are today?
I was sitting right there in that spot, and it was the anniversary of a pretty traumatic event for me. And Bounder come up to me, and he drops his head right on my shoulder, and he breathes out, telling me it's gonna be okay. And if I start crying and I get angry, it's gonna be okay. For some reason, the good Lord decided that I needed to be here, and I think I found what it is. If we help one person, or let someone know that they matter, for nothing else but, they are who they are, and they're a person, and God loves them, and so do I.
Wow.
Yeah, still gets me.
It does. And, if you might notice, I was petting that horse the entire time. I need that horse right now. It got me through that interview.
Yeah.
Gonna make me ugly cry on TV for crying out loud.
Well, we get our guest up
here. Let's do that. Betsy Osborne with Healing Strides. Welcome her and her amazing nonprofit. There's your microphone, and I really did. Like during that interview, I've been through some doozies in the 25 years I was in news. That was definitely one that ranks pretty high. And there's nothing wrong really there's nothing wrong at all with emotions and getting sad. But at the same token, I'm like, I need to let this man tell his story, and I just need to keep petting this horse so I can do that and not break down.
Oh, it can be.
You are.
It can be challenging to hold that space and allow someone to go through those processes, because we are so geared, especially those of us in the nonprofit world, to help and to want to to fix what we can. And so to to be willing to let that process be
Yeah.
only what they need and to be organic it can be tough. And nobody, I say this with horses, I don't think anybody leaves interaction with a horse, whether you're a clinician, a client, a volunteer, whatever it is, without being impacted by
Right.
the interaction.
What is it about horses when you talk about that from the medical perspective and the emotional perspective? How, why, all the questions, are they so healing?
I think it's a really wonderful question. It's probably more complicated than simply just saying that horses can teach us so much, but it's kind of true. Horses can teach us so much about them, but about ourselves, about how we interact with the world, with each other. The idea that anybody that's willing to want to go into a relationship with a horse, go into a partnership with a horse and say, hey, I'm going to care about you. I'm going to want to learn how you communicate, how I need to communicate with you. How are you going to understand my intentions? Horses are, animals that live in the moment. They live and they are authentic. They are true. We kind of joke at the barn. We say horses are really, really good at being horses. and it's true. They're really good at being horses. And so if we can respect that and we can understand that and not try and make it into, a situation that it's not, there's a lot of research that's happening, that has happened. I mean, even from the physical pieces of it, horses, helping new things fire in our brains and all sorts of stuff, to being able to recognize human expressions.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of stuff going on that kind of scientific side of it. But at the same time, being there and seeing it, it's not magic. There's a lot of work that goes into it. But it's if you're willing to do it, it's a pretty powerful thing.
Well, it does seem a little on the magical side. I know it's not when it comes to the story of Jason, the veteran who really been struggling with some PTSD, but on the kind of the opposite end of the spectrum, the children who have some developmental disabilities, there is a more of a physical, I guess, medical side of things from, my experience working with you all. Share about that, and perhaps a particularly inspiring story with a child that you've worked with.
Sure. So there's lots of benefits to working with horses. And the kind of, again, medical, physical piece of it is very much folded into that kind of larger piece of partnering and building a relationship. But a lot of people that want to ride horses, it's the reason that riding horses can be so unique for individuals with a wide range of physical challenges is that it's not everybody does it. Not everybody does it. It's kind of a special activity to be able to do. And so it obviously has benefits in, core strength and balance and proprioception. But in combination with all of that, there's also skill building. So you're not just working on, certain, medical type goals. And to be clear, therapeutic riding is not a medical service. It's very it's therapeutic versus a clinical service. But there are so many benefits that can happen from that. Probably one of my favorite stories was a young man. I have so many. I'll go with this one. A young man, mainly because Jason was reminding me of labels, who was in a lesson one day and got very, very, very frustrated. He didn't have a huge amount of strength in his legs and was just so frustrated that the horse wouldn't listen to him. We were giving him a little more independence, and he was calling the horse stubborn and slow, and he thought the horse didn't like him and all these different things. And his volunteer turned to him and said, I wonder how that horse feels if he heard you say those things, if he understood what you were saying. And it really was very impactful for that young man who kind of realized he was putting these labels on this horse that, weren't fair, that, he himself had been labeled before. And so once he was kind of able to realize that, they had a much more successful relationship, and he was able to be a bit more understanding of, what this horse needs to be able to do the things that they want to do together.
Mental health is big. It always has been. I think it has only grown since the pandemic. Talk about the fact that I feel so in my soul that counseling and therapy is so important for so many people. You don't have to be a veteran, a veteran or PTSD or some big traumatic situation to benefit from what you guys do.
Absolutely. Our mission is centered around individuals with personal challenges. Sometimes those challenges are lifelong challenges, and sometimes they're very temporary challenges. We're having a hard time. All of us, I think, have gone through times in our life where we're just simply having a hard time. And so we have a range of services that it's kind of the broad term is equine assisted services. But within that, we have, as I mentioned, sort of the more therapeutic, experiential services, horseback riding, things like that. And then we also have some, coaching, life coaching, skill building type things. And there is actual clinical services that people can do with counseling and psychotherapy. But because we have that range, really, if you're willing to step into the arena and you're interested in engaging and partnering with a horse to create that change, anybody really can benefit from it.
I love it.
Wonderful. Well, Betsy Osborne, Program Director at Healing Strides of Virginia, thank you so much for coming on to Buzz Live and
Thank
sharing
you.
this. Thank you.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Very nice.
All right, we can go.
All right, and with that, I would like to invite up our musical guests, which we try to have a musical guest affiliated with a nonprofit every week. This musical guest is a real treat. We are currently working on an episode of the TV show Buzz featuring the Spot on Kirk. And we got to interview a variety of performers who have kind of helped get their launch from this very stage. And for me personally, the most inspiring one has been Keith Alessi, who used this stage to hone an act that he has taken all over the world called Tomatoes Tried to Kill Me, but Banjos Saved My Life. And it's with that, Keith Alessi, ladies and gentlemen.
The banjo, the most frustrating of the stringed instruments, difficult to play, almost impossible to keep in tune. It and the people who play it are subject to constant mockery, ridicule, and rehashed corny jokes. They say you can tell who a person really is by looking in their closets. I had 52 banjos in mine. Everybody has a story. I had a story. I'm neither a musician nor an actor. I hadn't been on stage since senior year in high school, 1972. I live in the next block, and one night I stumbled into the Spot on Kirk, and I ran into Bruce Bryan, and that, plus some encouragement from some friends to tell my true life story, led me to workshopping a show that ultimately became Tomatoes Tried to Kill Me, but Banjos Saved My Life. It's been performed in front of over 40,000 people all across Canada, the U.S., England. We've sold out runs off Broadway, a couple runs at the Edinburgh Fringe Festival in Scotland, been to Australia. And since day one, we donated 100% of our gate to charity. And when I leave here tomorrow, I'll be driving up to Edmonton, Alberta, where we will raise our $1 millionth for cancer charities. So how does that happen? Well, I was born into an Italian household, and tomatoes were a constant. They were always on the table. They were always growing out back. My father, Tullio, was born in Italy, migrated to Canada. He met my mother, whose family was Calabria. They also came to Canada, but came into the States. So at birth, I became a first-generation Canadian and a first-generation American. And those of us who grew up on the border in the 60s, we had a real luxury. 4 television stations, yep. Now that was before there were remote controls. Youngest kid in the room was a remote control. And we'd watch all those shows of those idyllic families of the 60s, the women are always wearing high heels and pearls, cooking breakfast for their husbands, they're always in suits. And I'd watch those shows and I'd say, who are these people? That wasn't the household I was growing up in. But there was a family that did draw me in. The Clampetts, the Beverly Hillbillies, and a man named Jed. That song, it drew me in. Didn't make sense. I didn't grow up with banjos ringing in my ears. There was something about the song. The banjo, it cuts through the clutter. People are always smiling when it's being played. Interestingly, some of the best banjo players of our time, Steve Martin, Bela Fleck, Tony Trischka, they all attribute their interest in the banjo to that song, Ballad of Jed Clampett. Well, I wanted to learn to play, so I went out and got my first inexpensive banjo. Here's what it sounded like. The banjo, different kinds of woods, different kinds of metals. Some have plastic heads, some have skid heads. All these materials expand and contract at differing rates, making it a frustrating instrument to play. People pick up this instrument, they get frustrated, and they quit. Well, I too quit. And into the closet, my first banjo would go. And there it remained for over 40 years. I went into the world of business. I was a turnaround guy. I was a lover of lost causes. And I hitched my wagon to a series of troubled companies. I quickly rose through the ranks. At 27 years old, I was the chief financial officer of $1 billion company in Chicago. Well, that's true. Hi. I'm Keith. I'm a recovering executive. Now, this work's stressful. The hours are long. Through this whole time, I maintain my love of the banjo, my love of the tomatoes. Tomatoes aren't always loving me back. And I'd take the banjo out of the closet every now and then. I wouldn't make any progress. Well, in 1997, I took a chance on a company in Virginia Beach. I became a CEO of a tax service, Jackson Hewitt Tax Service. And we became the leading gaining stock in the country that year. We outperformed a little company called Yahoo. I retired. I was on the front page of the Wall Street Journal, TV interviews, magazine covers. And I rewarded myself by buying a very expensive banjo built by Jeff Stelling of Afton Mountain, Virginia. Not this one, but this is a banjo I brought tonight that was made by Jeff right over the mountain there. He's retired now. And I pick it up, and I couldn't get any better. Well, as a kid, I'd been a collector. So I said, well, I'm going to get to him one of these days. I kept collecting banjos and filling the closet up. So fast forward 10 years, now I'm running a company up in Canada. Stock price is up, profits are up, board of directors happy, everybody's happy. I'm not happy because I'm stressing out, and those tomatoes started to give me real problems. They were giving me acid reflux, and I was combating it by consuming massive quantities of antacids. Well, I had reached a point in life where many people do, where you realize if you're going to get to something, you better get to now. At the time, I was 61 years old. I had a closet full of banjos, couldn't play them, and I'd gotten inspired to play because I'd started to attend banjo camp. It's as geeky as it sounds. 200 musicians descend upon a college campus for a weekend to try to play. Well, it inspired me so much, I decided to quit my job. So I quit my job as the CEO of a company up in Edmonton, Alberta, on a Monday morning. And 2 weeks to the day later, I was told I had a 50% chance of living a year. Stage 3B esophageal cancer. 5-year survivability probability, 14%. Well, I was in shock. I was scared to death. So what was I going to do? Well, I decided to control what I could, which was my attitude, and I threw myself into trying to learn to play the banjo. It represented hope, a future, and life, and that embarked me upon a journey that brings me to this stage today. Now, the banjo is a very complicated instrument in terms of its history. If you go to Appomattox, Virginia, you're going to see a historical marker there claiming some white gentleman from Appomattox is the inventor of the banjo. Well, that's not true. It's an African instrument. And this instrument I've got tonight is very much like what the African instrument would have been. It's a gourd. This has got a modern neck on it, but the original gourd banjos would have had a stick with catgut strings. But when you hear this instrument, you'll hear the roots of blues music as well. Yeah, we're in tune. Can you hear those slides? Well, here in Virginia, we're lucky. It's an area where there's a rich musical heritage, and certainly the banjo plays a big part of it. We're right here at the Crooked Road, which celebrates the heritage of the people that settled the area. It was largely Scott-Irish populations. And this, of course, is a more modern banjo, an old-time banjo. And when I hear this instrument played in Southwest Virginia, I hear the vestigial sounds of bagpipes. going back to those Irish days. I'm going to play a song that's a British song. And many of you have heard this song. It's called Shady Grove, and there's hundreds of versions of this. But when I hear it, I hear those bagpipes. Bagpipes in there. Yep. Now, part of my journey took me along the Crooked Road to an iconic venue called the Floyd Country Store. Those of you who've been up there know that on Sundays they have jams. And I joined a circle of musicians there, and that's where I ultimately find healing, both emotional and physical healing. The circle of musicians is very welcoming. They bring anybody in. I was intimidated to go to the jams up there, but when I walked into my first jam, I realized everybody had a big smile on their face. A third of the people were out of tune, a third of them were out of time, a third of them were playing something different than the rest, but they were all having a great time. And they accepted me into that circle. And it was there that the mysteries of the music finally unraveled for me. I finally made those connections in a supportive group of musicians. And I end up writing a story about all that. That's the gist of an 80-minute show that we've been doing. And the most inspiring thing about it for me has been there isn't a show that we do that somebody doesn't come out of the audience with their own story. Everybody's got a story. And places like the Spot on Kirk is how those stories can get told, because who else would have allowed me on a stage to write, workshop, and ultimately tell that story? And you shouldn't have to wait for a cancer diagnosis to get your banjos out of your closet. Everybody's got something in their closet. And, I grew up in a generation where you had to be great at everything. But what I recognized at the Floyd Country Store is just playing was enough. It was good enough. I was good enough. And I encourage people, I challenge people at the end of every show I say, what's in your closet? It sounds like a credit card commercial, huh? Yeah. What do you have in your closet? And why is it in there? And why aren't you doing something with it? Why don't you take it out? Why don't you do good with it? This has been the journey of a lifetime. When I was a CEO, if I did well, people made money. That was okay. I taught university. You'd see a light bulb or two go off in the room. That was cool. But this has been an adventure. And next Thursday, when I open up in Edmonton, not only will that be our 1 millionth dollar, but to the day, that'll be my 9th anniversary. So, knock on wood. We're going to keep doing this show as long as we can. Hopefully we can bring it here, like we've done it a couple times here at the Spot with the larger theaters in town. I'm become David Hasselhoff. My audience is in Scotland. I live a block away. But we'll get one of these local theaters, bring it in, and maybe raise some money for some of these worthy charities, because every show we designate a charity we're raising money for, and we always keep it local. So,
wonderful.
Thank you.
Keith Alessi. Thank you so much. What a wonderful story. Now, Keith is one of the many people who make the Spot on Kirk so fantastic. One of the main ones is Bruce C. Bryan, who was the founder and board president of the Spot on Kirk. He is also the founder and president of the Roanoke marketing agency 5 Points Creative. And for his regular segment, we have the no budget nonprofit marketing minute that Bruce is serving up back there at the bar. Bruce, take it away.
Hey, nonprofit friends, not everyone donates to your organization for the same reason. You may believe that they're deeply connected to your cause and to give to help further your work, and some do. But others donate for different reasons. Some want to gain notoriety. Some want to attend the next big function you have. Some have their arms twisted by a big client or their boss. And some are looking for marketing, coverage, promotion, or notoriety. Some want to be seen as a community partner and a generous person or company. When taken on their own, none of these are bad reasons for someone to give. It's okay for people to give to you for a wide range of motives. What's not okay is for your nonprofit to give a cookie cutter story to everyone you talk with. No, no, no. Instead, start with uncovering what those donors need. Then shift your story to match up with the reason why people are wanting to give to you. Now you're playing the matching game. And winning at that means winning for your organization.
Oh, thank you so much, Bruce.
Very nice, Bruce.
And let me tell you, storytelling is what connects people, absolutely. And I just want to bring up our next guest, Apple Ridge Farms, which works to transform the life of communities of underserved children, families through engagement, and unparalleled education, cultural, and outdoor experiences.
All right, we have one quick video that'll better highlight the great work that Apple Ridge Farm does. Rob, take it away.
Apple Ridge Farm is a nonprofit organization in Roanoke, Virginia, dedicated to transforming the lives of our community's underserved children and families through engagement in unparalleled educational, cultural, and outdoor experiences. Founded in 1978 by educator and visionary Peter Lewis, Apple Ridge has always been a safe haven for our most at-risk youth from its humble beginnings. Over the last 45 years, Apple Ridge Farm has served over 80,000 youth. The organization has become a cornerstone for closing the educational achievement gap and sowing the seeds of potential in our children. Always free of charge to our students and their families, Apple Ridge Farm is perhaps best known for its academic summer camp. Apple Ridge also operates programs both at the farm and in the school system. We offer environmental education field trips, team building experiences like our Get Outside program, and in-school programming like our mentoring program Aspire Mindsets and our 21st Century After-School programming. We believe that academic support and success are essential components in positively building self-esteem in our youth. With stronger self-esteem, our children will believe in the possibility that they can reach their dreams. Our job is to see them as the amazing seeds of potential that they are, and nurture them until they can see that in themselves. Thank you for coming along with us in our mission to help kids grow.
All right,
Well, so
Josh Temke, Executive Director of Apple Ridge Farms. Thank you for coming up, Josh.
All right, Josh.
Thank you very much. Come on in.
Welcome. Grab a seat, grab a mic.
Do all the things. Enjoy.
I will do all the things.
So, Josh, describe, for starters, kind of the typical child that comes to Apple Ridge Farm.
Sure, yeah. They come in many shapes and colors, but most of our students come from the northwest quadrant of Roanoke City, a good percentage of the. All of our students live under 200% of the federal poverty guideline. So we screen students through the registration process at the beginning of each year for academic summer camp. We'll have roughly 400 kids apply for anywhere between 120 and 150 spots, depending on the year. And so of those kids, we accept them on a first-come, first-served basis with a couple qualifiers, most of the most important one being family income. So all of our families live under 200% of that federal poverty guideline. So about 75% of our students' families take home less than $10,999 a year. So these are kids that couldn't afford to go to a summer camp on their own.
These are kids whose lives basically revolve around Northwest Roanoke, just staying within that kind of that general
Their
jurisdiction.
neighborhood. That's it.
Very much so. Yeah, Roanoke's such an outdoor community, but we forget sometimes that there's a giant population of our neighbors that don't get to experience that. For lack of a better word, they're stuck in the city. Not that it's not a wonderful city to be stuck in, but there's plenty to see out there. And so when they come up to the farm, it's kind of a new world for them. So
what's that like?
They're not used to that environment at all.
What is the reaction of a child when they come to Apple Ridge Farms, especially for that first time? I just can imagine the awe.
It is. It's shock and awe, for sure. A lot of fear at first,
okay.
to be honest. tend to be scared of the environment because it's so different from what they're used to. And we use that to our advantage programmatically. I mean, it's great for us to get them outside of their comfort zone in a world that they've never been in, for them to explore a part of themselves that they probably can't do down here in Roanoke. So I think of, when I think of that first kid coming to camp, I think of a little girl that we just called Auntie. This was a couple years ago. Honest to God, today, I still don't know her name. We just called her Auntie because she looked like someone's aunt. She came off the bus. It was a changeover week, so we had some new kids, and I was sitting on my golf cart, as I do, watching the kids come down off the bus, and this girl walked off in like a Sunday dress, stockings, and black penny loafers. And so she stood out like a sore thumb. She also had an overnight bag and a sleeping bag. We're a day camp, so she was very, very lost. We took her aside, got her some clothes, got her fixed up, but she just wasn't prepared for the environment that she was going into. I saw her a couple days later into camp, sitting at the edge of one of the lunch tables, so I went over and talked to her and checked in just to make sure she was feeling comfortable and feeling at home now. And I said, "Hey, Auntie, how's it been?" And she said, "This is the best summer camp I've ever been to." And I was surprised by that, because most of our students don't get to go to other summer camps. But if their parents are diligent enough, there are some scholarships available to some of the other local camps in Southwest Virginia. So she was fortunate enough to have a parent that was, focused to do that. And so I asked her what she loved about Apple Ridge so much, thinking it was going to be, the outdoor space, the pool, the high ropes, the low ropes, the basketball, baseball, whatever. Yeah. My typical answer. And what she said really shocked me, which was, she said, I've never been in a place that looks like this, full of people that look like me. And that really hit home. And honestly, initially it did not hit home, because my first thought was, no one looked like you when you first got here. But as it settled in, I started to realize that there's an entire population of kids in our city that don't feel at home in a place that's extraordinary. And we feel at Apple Ridge that it's our responsibility to do that. So that's the goal. That's what we're trying to get. We're trying to get that feeling of, I can't believe this place has been waiting for me to come. Yeah.
And ultimately, your goal is not just to provide like this short-term experience for these children, but really some kind of lifelong opportunity that maybe this experience kind of opens up for them.
Absolutely. Yeah. So we want to see our kids grow, for sure. And we want to see them come back if we can. And we've got, there's been many wonderful Apple Ridge success stories. And we always say that you can pick an Apple Ridge kid out of a crowd. And I've tested it, and it's pretty accurate. They tend to have charisma about them, a sense of confidence, a polite attitude that stands them apart from their peers. We're very old-fashioned up there. It's yes, sir, no, sir, yes, ma'am, no, ma'am. Mr. Lewis would have it no other way. So we kind of instill that in our kids. And, that and the other character developing things we do throughout academic summer camp tends to come home with them. And we see changes in them over time, and they kind of continue to morph further and further into that Apple Ridge kid. And when I say Apple Ridge kid, I mean our director of programs, Jordan Bell. He's our shining example of what an Apple Ridge kid was. He came to Apple Ridge Farm 25 years ago at the age of 9 as a camper, and he never left. He started as a camper, eventually became a junior counselor, then he became a summer camp teacher, then he was a summer camp coordinator, and today he's our full-time director of programs, running all of our programs at the farm. And so he's just one of examples of many folks that we've been able to have up there at our time.
And I know Jordan well, and not only is he a great example and leader at Apple Ridge Farms, but throughout the city of Roanoke.
Absolutely.
So wonderful. Well, Josh Timke, thank you so much for
you.
all the work that you're doing at Apple Ridge Farms. Let's hear it one more time for Josh and Apple Ridge Farms. And at this point, I want to get all of our guests up here on stage with us to close us out tonight. Get on up here.
Come on up, come on up. We have to thank Spot on Kirk, of course, and Bruce Bryan, and our sponsors of tonight's show, which is the Friends of the Blue Ridge, which they work to build better community throughout the Blue Ridge region like all of you guys do.
Thank you again for everyone being here tonight. To close us out, Keith, could you give us a tune? All right. Thanks so much for being here, everybody.
Thank you.
And that'll do it for today's show. Thanks so much for tuning in, and I hope to see you next time here on Buzz for Good, as well as our Buzz Live Talk Show this Thursday, February the 27th at the Spot on Kirk in downtown Roanoke. For more information about Buzz, stay tuned to buzzforgood.com. That's Buzz, B-U-Z-Z, 4 good.com, as well as our social media channels, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and YouTube, all at Buzz for Good. And until next time, I hope you continue being a buzz for good in your community. Bye now.